Tell me what you want from me. Take a look at what you see. Let me know if it's right here. Something you can have for me. Tell me what you want from me. Take a look at what you see. Let me know if it's right. Set me free to roam a whole new world. My course is set, it's pointing towards a hill. Should go goodbye and set me free to roam a whole.
Attacking the British occupational forces. The evidence they used against her, that 100 police officers at her trial, was Facebook messages. Messages such as, it is obvious that the PSNI, RUC are the enemies of the Irish people. Facebook messages like, do not talk to the police. Stuff like that. Simply for Facebook. And these are the laws they want to bring over here. Someone looks at my Facebook, I'm definitely screwed.
We do not have to deal with the threat of terrorism by exchanging freedoms for security.
My name is Faith. I'm an economist, which by nature tends to be a rather conservative profession. My partner is a criminal lawyer. He's worked at the Department of Justice under Peter MacKay, and he's also worked in public safety under Stephen Blaney. A lot of Canadians who tend to be more centre or right of centre tend to dismiss the protests as being something they don't have to worry about because it is something that only the progressives or the Indigenous or the Muslims or the protesters have to worry about. And what people don't realize is that there is legal consensus that this bill is very poorly constructed and it's very dangerously constructed. So 4 former prime ministers, Paul Martin, Jean Chrétien, John Turner, and Conservative Prime Minister Joe Clark have all signed a letter saying that this is a dangerous bill. We also have 5 former Supreme Court justices, including a former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. There were 100 legal scholars and law professors from McGill University, from Osgoode Hall, from the University of Toronto, from the University of British Columbia, so the most respected Canadian law schools. All of these law professors have signed this letter, this public letter, saying that this bill needs to be opposed. Even Rex Murphy, who is a very conservative journalist, has said that Canadians need to act against this. There are parliamentary committees that are reviewing the bill, and these are a farce. They have not permitted Danielle Terrien, who is the privacy watchdog of CSIS, to testify in front of them. They have not permitted the 4 former prime ministers to testify. They have forbidden many members of the Canadian Civil Liberties Association from testifying. And in the question periods that they had yesterday, the only question that was posed by a minister in the first session of the committee was to the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, and he asked them, why are you so opposed to getting terrorists off the street? It is the nature of the language that they're putting out that is troubling. It stifles dissent. I have a quote from Benjamin Franklin, actually, that says, any society that is willing to give up its essential liberties for the semblance of security deserves neither and will lose both. Oppose
It's pointed towards a whole new world. Goodbye and set me free to roam a whole new world. My course is set.
Across the political spectrum, there is opposition. Canadians are united against this legislation.
Inspector, please, sir. Hello. I am here because I just love Canada. And that's it. I am an international student. And the beauty of this country is that you guys embrace us. That's the best part. My university culture, my universities, both of them, they love me and I love them back. We need to make an atmosphere and an environment where we don't give the sense to students like me and the people who are not very well aware of what's going on, that you're going to be unsafe in Canada, because this is the most safe country in the whole damn world. And we want to keep it like that. So yes, so I am here with you guys supporting the cause, and that's pretty much it.
Despite how bitterly damp and nasty it is, don't you know? Warm feelings from our speakers. Another person to speak. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, my name's Jocelyn. I'm an independent filmmaker who about 10 years ago had, a transformation and awareness. I became conscious of myself, the world around me. I was studying psychology at the time, got into world religion, and then had vision for filmmaking, and it became my life. And I remember in about 2008, I was in Windsor, and there was a protest for the Security and Prosperity Partnership, and it was just getting into awareness, so I didn't even know everything of what it meant. But over the years, I also went to Vancouver for the Olympics to find stories as a filmmaker. And, there was both sides there. There was beautiful culture happening in the Olympics, and then there were people protesting the corporate and where could the money be going. But there's beautiful things to come out of Olympics. It brings people together. It shows that we're diverse, and yet we have a commonality of, what the world is all about.
The Fraser River. All of these things represent what Langley is about on this day where we celebrate the torch coming through. This is a proud day for our community of Langley. Sing it together if you can catch the words.
The Kwantlen Journey song, ladies and gentlemen, and we're very honored to come up here, and we're thankful that you allow us to exercise our culture just a little bit. And what this song represents, ladies and gentlemen, is the journey in life. So what we're going to do is we're going to welcome each and every one of you here today. We're going to welcome the world to our country and our province here of Vancouver, British Columbia. And once again, this song that we're going to share is the Kwantlen Journey song, and it just represents the journey in life.
And so while I was out there, I also became very aware of Indigenous culture, and I gained such a respect for them. They lived in harmony with the land. They knew the plants around them as sacred and as medicine. And unfortunately, the Canadian history of the colonizing and coming over and smallpox on blankets.
Amherst began a new tact. He had a great conference at Fort Pitt Council with many chiefs of nations. He gave us gifts, thousands of woolen blankets to take home and put on our families. Once we did that, we quickly noticed thousands of us began to die from the disease that makes the face melt. Smallpox, you call it. We're not foolish. We certainly figured out what was on those blankets when they were gifted to us. How many of you thought biological warfare was something new? Who are fathers here? If someone gave you such a gift and you put it on your children and watched them die horrible deaths, what would you like to do to the people who gave you the gift? Any suggestions?
That's the story. That's what happened, and it's so traumatizing to think of what they went through. But we're here today, and we've heard so far everyone kind of brings their insight, and there's so much awareness to learn about. Even with vaccinations, there's talk of vaccinations becoming mandatory, and people really should have that choice, especially since all Indigenous cultures lived in harmony with the land, as I said, and they knew the plants as sacred, and they didn't have diseases that they had to vaccinate children. So yeah, we live in a time of this bill. I mean, I don't even know all the details, but I do know that I support freedom and being able to live our lives embracing the diverse cultures that we have in this world, and celebrating that. And I'm also an optimist, and I believe in the good, and I absolutely believe in the good of humanity. It's one of my, my sense of purpose as a filmmaker. So always maintain that positive vision too. As much as we talk about everything, let's believe in it. Let's believe in a positive future of peace and prosperity. We can achieve this, and I'm really happy that we're all here today celebrating. I made a drum this week actually out of buffalo hide. And you soak the skin, you're close to the skin, you realize all animals have skin as we do, and if you look in the eyes of animals, they're present as a being too. So really reflecting on what body, mind, and spirit is, and you know, our mind does affect things. So keep that positive view and work on yourselves as well. You know, let's make the best life each of us can make and continue to reach out into the community, our friends and family, and getting together in celebratory times as much as this as well. Thank you.
Everything you were saying is exactly like describing what I've been doing. It's weird. Like, I mean, Indigenous, the G20, the Security and Prosperity Partnership.
Yeah.
I'm with Press for Truth with Dan Dix out of Toronto.
Okay.
Well, I just told my friend here, I'm like, this. I feel like we're on the same. There's just good to know there's people that get it.
Hi, my name is Walter Schultz. I'm a legal professional here in Waterloo Region. I've never protested before, ever.
Wow.
This bill utterly guts various sections of our protected Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Look at it line by line and go, what? What? And you think to yourself, okay, we really have some serious considerations to make here. This is not a political issue. This is a Canadian issue. It affects all Canadians. I look across the crowd and it's a cross-section of our country. It's everybody of every type of background and belief and trade, whatever. We're Canadians and we're united with a cause. If you got a conservative friend to say, okay, are you supporting a bill that adheres to your belief of our Charter of Rights and Freedoms? It went into act in 1982. Don't let it die 33 years later.
Craig McCalanco, and I represent a newly formed group called BA, Birdwatchers Against Hartford. And those bird-brained cabinet ministers alluded to environmentalists being terrorists. And I thought, this is absurd, but apparently they're paranoid enough to believe it. The local Birdwatchers Club is called Waterloo Region Nature. And they're peaceful. We are peaceful people. We're as happy as bluebirds, honest as meadowlarks, as pleasant as pheasants. Well, a few months ago, at the monthly meeting, there was a presentation about bees and wasps and other insects, and there's a new insecticide that is killing them all off, and the apiarists who provide our honey are very worried about it. So Waterloo Region Nature wanted to express its concern to the Minister of the Environment, and a very gentle, meek letter was sent to them. The outcome was an audit by the Canadian Revenue Agency. No one likes that, do we? But it is quite scary. The Sierra Club is being audited. Environmental Defense is as well. And if you want to see the ultimate outcome of that sort of behavior, you can go to Russia. Putin has managed to disassemble almost all civil society opposition organizations. The way it's done is he drums up for phony tax evasion charges, tries the executives with crooked judges, and sentences them routinely to 5 to 7 years.
My name is Gloria Martin. I'm a local citizen. And I don't know about you, but I feel like weeping. And I've not been able to sleep because of this bill. It has shaken me. I'm not one to protest either, but I've been, saying, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. How exactly are we standing on guard for thee? I was asking myself that question. I thought it appropriate as a symbolic act to have 2 minutes of silence to our rights and freedoms.
This one's really got my goat. We could have a debate on things that are worthy of protest, whether it be the mess of health care, or the inequity in wages, or the list goes on, and you get my point. But this bill takes away the right of people to participate in a democracy. What that will do, in my opinion, is make people more apathetic, more desensitized to what goes on, just generally complacent about what goes on in politics, and there'll be less willingness to get involved and participate. And I believe that's a plan to make people fed up with politicians and less interested in getting involved. I have been talking it up for the last few weeks about this bill, and I'm extremely surprised at how many people do not know about this. And so I wanted to go to Toronto this morning. I was concerned that there wouldn't be much of a turnout here, and I'm just elated to see the number of people that are here. But to me, the people that are here are great. The people that are here, we have a real job to do, and it's not only protest C-51, it's to engage other people to get them active. I spoke to family members, the kids, and their partners, and I tried to get them to come to this protest today. They're all of voting age. I don't see one of them here. When we get home, we'll have a little.
So true.
I just think there's a really important job. I had this debate at work every day this week. I pissed so many people off. I don't see anybody from work here. Our job is to very gently nudge people to get off their asses. Thanks.
Woo! Yes, it is.
I joined the military in 1982 and served up until after I was working in NORAD on September 11th, 2001. A year after that, a couple of years after that, my 20 years came up and I decided to jet because I knew we were going into Iraq, I knew we were going into Afghanistan, and I knew it was wrong. So I didn't want any part of it. Being in the military and being in the police forces is not the only way to fight for your rights and your freedoms on this land. There are many ways, and I thank you all for showing up and bearing the cold and the damp for doing that. I guess about at this point, all I ever want to say is I'm glad to be out and not part of the problem anymore. And I'm glad to be standing on the right side where I believe I was. And I think it was up until around about it was Bosnia when they started getting messy and they started invading other countries where we didn't belong.
Yep.
With that, thank you all.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Alim Nathu. I'm just a regular citizen of the city of Kitchener. I just recently moved here in June 2014. Some of the concerns I have about this bill is number one, with our World War II veterans that fought for our freedom, the Harper government is taking away our freedom, and this is absolutely unacceptable.
You're so cute.
In fact, I'm concerned about the freedoms of Canadians, and I'm also concerned about the freedoms of the people of this region of Waterloo. And what we need to do is we need to stand together and oppose this bill by writing to our members of parliament and attending more protests. Thank you all so much for coming out, and I really appreciate all the support.
Oh, thank you. Oh, what a cutie.
I really appreciate your support. Thank you.
What a cutie.
Thanks for coming out, everybody. I just want to say one thing about what really worries me about this bill. You know, there's all these provisions in the legislation that will impact individuals. You know, if you happen to be arrested for being a suspected terrorist or something, you know, you'll be able to be detained for 7 days as opposed to 2 without detention. You know, these impacts on the individual are pretty important, but I think they pale in comparison to the impact on the community. So in the papers they talk about, or at least in one of the papers I read, you know, they talk about the chilling effect that will come about because of this bill. I'm an environmentalist. Last year I took place in an illegal pipeline blockade, and I'm okay with that, and I think that's great. Like Marty was saying, that's civil disobedience, and it's absolutely required in a democracy. But I just want to make a bit of an analogy or a metaphor, and before I say it, I don't want to alienate anybody. I have nothing but love for Alcoholics Anonymous, but I'm going to make a hurtful generalization here. But say the government, you know, for whatever reason, they decide that Alcoholics Anonymous tends to have a lot of petty thieves, or people who get into fights at bars or whatever. You know, maybe it's a fair generalization. I'm not saying that it is. That's why I'm being careful here. But basically, if the government starts watching Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, it'll put a chill on the whole organization. And maybe 1 out of every 100 alcoholics will decide that they don't want to go to Alcoholics Anonymous because the government is surveilling them. So if 1 or 2 out of every 100 people doesn't get the help that they need because of some stupid law, you know, then you're putting a chill on the whole community. So, yeah, I just think that's awful. Like, the people need to be involved in things, in civil disobedience, for anything to actually get done. If you're an anti-petroleum activist, that's important to you. It's also important to Canada as a whole. But you know, this law is going to make it so that maybe 1 out of every 100 or 2 out of every 100 anti-petroleum activists, they just won't get involved. And so the important things that we need to do as a society won't get done. So that's all I wanted to say. It's the chilling effect. It's pretty chilling.
Speaking of the chilling effect, I don't know if any of you read Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. If you don't, check it out. It's online as well.
I want to express my appreciation to everybody who is present and to every one of the speakers, each one of whom has brought to us a unique perspective and given us lots of food for thought. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. We all know what we need to do. Have a great day, get warm, and we have a final few words.
That there's a petition here, leadnow.ca petition. If you haven't signed it, you can either go online and sign it, or you can sign it here, and I'll be putting the names online or something. Thanks for coming.